Are you wondering who's getting evicted from the Big Brother house this week? And are you fascinated by what's happening on Love Island? Well, that's not this podcast, but admittedly, I am watching both shows. But if you want to learn why informational interviews can be a key to helping you figure out what's next, stay tuned because I'm going to give you 5 tips to help you recapture the lost art of the informational interview and help you conduct your next one as you build your mid-career GPS. Hi, I'm John Nerrill, and welcome to the Mid-Career GPS podcast. If you're feeling stuck in your career and overwhelmed by what steps to take, I can help you. As an executive and career transition coach, I help my clients prepare, position, and promote who they are and what they do to show up and find a job they love or love the job they have. It's time to start building your mid-career GPS. So let's get started. Welcome back, my friends. Today is episode 47, and we're talking about informational interviews today. I'm really looking forward to sharing some of these tips with you because I believe that the informational interview is a lost art. And it's about bringing them back into your repertoire, if you will, to really help you figure out and navigate whatever career transition you're currently going through. And especially if you're looking to level up, informational interviews are vital to your success. Now, before we get started, I have to mention that we are 1 week away from the official launch date of my new book, Your Mid-Career GPS, 4 Steps to Figuring Out What's Next. It's currently available for pre-sale on Amazon, and the book officially goes live Tuesday, August 17th. Now, here's how you can help me. See, on Amazon, when you do a pre-sale, you can only pre-order the Kindle. And I currently have that book listed at $4.99 as part of the book launch. Now, let me ask you this. Where can you get everything you need to know about your career transition for $4.99? It's in my book. And I did it this way because I wrote this book for people who are really overwhelmed by the whole job search, career transition type process, and wanted to give them one comprehensive resource that was going to help them throughout all of the things related to how they're preparing for it, all the logistical stuff like the resume, the LinkedIn, the networking, the interviewing, and also what it means for you to show up as the professional you are. Now, if you do me a favor, go to Amazon and pre-order the Kindle. Now, of course, the paperback will be available on the 17th. But if you know anything about Amazon, what's really great about this whole process is that when you pre-order and we turn the button on to make the book go live on the 17th, then all of those sales go into the first hour that the book is available. And the more sales means the more traction it gets, the more visible it gets to be on Amazon. And I'm really excited to take this book very, very far and get this book out to as many people as possible and to speak on these topics. So whether this book is for you or it's for somebody you know, literally for less than $5, less than some cups of coffee we buy, right? It's a great gift for yourself or for someone you care about it. So kindly make sure, please go to Amazon, pre-order the book. It is called Your Mid-Career GPS, 4 Steps to Figuring Out What's Next. But just do me a favor and don't do it while you're driving, okay? We must pre-order my book safely, okay? All right, thanks. Now, what's an informational interview? An informational interview is an opportunity for you to connect with somebody who either works in an organization, an industry, or a role, and ask them specific questions about their career and their job, because that is something that is of interest to you. You might be thinking of applying to that company or maybe doing some kinds of similar work. The informational interview is that chance for you to gather information about what they do because you want to get that information to help you make a more informed decision about whether or not that industry, field, role, position is going to be something you're going to apply to. And as I'm saying this, I want to acknowledge that probably some things are coming up in your head around it. I know when I've done informational interviews in the past, a lot of things came up in my head about, look, no one's going to want to talk to me because they're too busy. They don't know me. So why are they going to want to talk to me? I don't know what to ask them. I don't want to be a bother. Or how about this? Maybe they're just too important to talk to me. It's so easy for us to get wrapped up into our own thoughts about why we are insufficient or why somebody would not want to talk to us and help us out on our career path, especially if we don't know them. But here's the thing. And I had a friend of mine years ago who gave me some great advice about navigating a party. And he's like, you go to a networking event or you go to a house party or something like that. He's like, just ask people questions about themselves because people will talk to you then, right? People love to talk about themselves. So ask them questions about themselves and they'll open up and it'll make the experience much better for you. And he was right. Totally worked. The same thing applies here, my friends. Okay. Now, in thinking about reaching out to somebody, whether they're in your network or you know somebody who can connect you, what if we shifted the thought here? What if the thought was, I'm going to find people for my informational interviews who are willing to talk to me because they're willing to help me. They would be honored to spend a few minutes with me to talk about what they do and answer my questions. As a mid-career professional, we often move away from informational interviews and put it under this umbrella about networking. And we think about passing out business cards and being in these virtual coffees and virtual rooms and all of these things. Look, are we ever really going to get back to those in-person networking events? I've got some speaking engagements lined up and they're supposed to be in person. I don't even know if they're going to happen right now. We may have to move them virtually because of all the things that are happening with the resurgence of COVID and the Delta variant and everything. But look, let's just be optimistic and say, when we're all back in the room at some point and we are doing those networking events, that's one thing. The informational interview is some dedicated time and space for you to ask some very important questions of someone because they're going to give you information you need. And you need that information to help you make a decision about where your career is moving. I want to acknowledge that for mid-career professionals, the level of questions are very different than if you were just getting ready to graduate from college. Knowing that you are 10, 15, 20, 25 years out of when you got your undergraduate degree or your high school diploma, these questions that you're going to ask are going to be framed a little bit differently. So it's important right now that we acknowledge that the information you need is very different. Now, I'm going to give you 5 tips. These will be linked up in the show notes. You can always go back to them there, and I will chapter mark these for you. You can easily go back and listen to them. But here are the 5 tips to help you make your next informational interview a fantastic experience. The first thing is you need to identify the people who you want to talk to. These can be people who are currently in your network or connected to somebody else, but you're identifying them because of either their title, their specific job duties, or the companies they work for. And you're going to make a list of who would be the people for this informational interview that you want to talk to. Once you get that list, I want you to identify 3 to 5 people that you're going to have a conversation with. Now, tip number 2 is about preparing for the informational interview. I want you to come up with a series of questions that you will ask everyone you talk to in this round of an informational interview. When we ask the same questions, we have answers from 3 to 5 different people that we can compare and contrast with to help us make our decision. It's why when we conduct hiring interviews, we have very structured protocols for the kinds of questions we ask all of the applicants. So everything is the same. We're going to do the same thing here. You're going to come up with a list of questions and do a brain dump or a thought download and write all of these questions down on a sheet of paper. Give yourself 10, 15 minutes to just dump all of those questions out. Then what I want you to do is I want you to go back to that list and I want you to highlight or circle 5 to 7 of those questions that you wrote. And there are questions that you would really like to ask somebody. And when you're looking at those specific questions, I want you to go deeper. I want you to come up with a more specific question that you can ask them. For example, I want you to avoid questions like, what's a typical day like for you? How much money can you make in your industry? Don't ask those kinds of questions because they're mundane. I wouldn't even suggest necessarily that a college graduate, soon to be college graduate, would ask those kinds of questions. You need to go a little bit deeper in those questions. And I'm going to give you some of those in a moment. But when you're thinking about the questions you want to ask, spend some time going deeper. The more specific questions you ask, the better off they're going to be. Now, the third step is conducting the informational interview. To do that, you have to reach out and invite somebody. When you're messaging them, make sure you are very specific that you are asking for 15 minutes of their time. Don't say 10 because it's impossible to get this done in 10 minutes. Even 15 is going to be a hurdle. But if you pick 3 to 5 really good questions from your list at that point that you want to ask, then you've got your structure for your 15-minute interview. So you're going to take 5 to 7 off of that list that you're going to go deeper with. And then out of that, you're going to pick 3 to 5 that you're going to ask people in the interview. Once you get a yes from them that they're willing to talk to you for those 15 minutes, whether it be by phone or by Zoom or Microsoft Teams, whatever it is that you use, please do me this favor. Be respectful of their time. If you ask them for 15 minutes, don't take 20. You want to make sure this is a great experience for them. Be respectful of their time. Now that you've conducted the interview, tip number 4 is about being thankful. Please make sure that you personally thank each and every person you did for an informational interview. I would suggest a handwritten thank you note if possible, but oftentimes with a lot of people working from home, that's just going to be too difficult. So take the time to write a very crafty and, and, considerate a very crafty and considerate email. Maybe go to canva.com and do up a little thank you note card that you can do that with. Some people advocate for including a small gift. Maybe it's a $10 gift card to say Starbucks or Amazon, something just in a way of saying, I really appreciate the time you gave me. Thank you very, very much. You don't have to make it a huge gift if you choose to go down that route, but something to at least say, I really appreciate the time you gave me. Thank you. People who are going to come to an informational interview for you genuinely want to help. And so they're not expecting anything in return other than your gratitude. A simple thank you email is fine. But if you want to throw in something extra like that, that might be nice. Maybe you find something on their LinkedIn profile that's of interest or whatever. Canva.com is a great place to do any kind of very free and easy graphics to make something happen. But tip number 4, be grateful. Tip number 5 is to reflect. Once you've conducted all of your informational interviews, give yourself some time to review everybody's answers, compare your notes, look at them and reflect upon them to see how they have impacted your decision to whatever is going to be next for your career. Don't do these informational interviews and then forget that whole experience. Really take some time to think about those individual conversations and all of the conversations together. I will layer in this piece. Once you've identified and you are ready to conduct those informational interviews, whether they be those 3, 4, or 5 interviews, see if you can get them all done in a week. That way, then everything is still fresh in your mind to really think a little bit more about those things. Informational interviews are also very helpful for people who are looking to pick up a side hustle or some side work. Maybe you're looking to branch into some consulting work, some public speaking. I know a lot of coaches, and myself included, often started our businesses part-time after our typical 9-to-5 job was over, and we coached in the evenings and on the weekends because that was helping us figure out how our business was growing. So think about those things as well. Informational interviews can be really, really helpful if you're thinking about making a career pivot down the road. Now, a little earlier, I talked about some basic questions I want you to avoid. I want to come back to this now and just share a few, what I like to say are really solid and good informational interview questions. So here they are. What are 3 things you currently love about your job? As mid-career professionals, you're going to get some interesting answers here. More than likely, and having done this myself in the past, you're going to hear about the people they work with. Get curious about that, right? What is it about the people they work with that is something they really love about their job? The 3 things they currently love about their job. Another question, what's one thing that is the greatest source of your frustration? As I was progressing in my teaching career and I was doing informational interviews as I was looking to level up, I clearly remember people saying things like there just wasn't enough time to plan their lessons, or they didn't have enough time to collaborate with other teachers. It really helped me shape a lot of the professional development initiatives I helped create and institute wherever I was working. So what's one thing that's the greatest source of your frustration? Here's another one. What advice can you give me to help me with my professional development if I were to move into a position such as yours? That's an example of taking a question and going deeper with it. The question initially started out as, what kind of professional development do you do? What kind of professional development does your company offer? But when we go deeper with that kind of question, we need to turn it back to us, because informational interviews are about helping us make the decision So what advice can you give me to help me with my professional development if I were to move into a position such as yours? Here's another one. What's been the greatest lesson you've learned in your career? And my last question for you, what advice can you give me to help me make my next career move? Those are just some of my favorite questions that I know work really well in an informational interview. But here's one last thing that I do want to wrap up with. So the challenge I'm going to give you is to identify 3 people who you would like to have an informational interview with in the next month, and do it. Now, again, whether they're people in your network, someone's making a connection for you, or you are just doing some random outreach on LinkedIn and connecting with people, do me this favor. If you don't already have a pre-established relationship with them, please take time to nurture that relationship. Let them get to know you a little bit before you just jump in like, hey, thanks for connecting. Can I have 15 minutes of your time? Nobody wants that. Take some time to build that relationship up first before you ask if they'd be willing to do an informational interview with you. I recently had an experience where that worked extremely well. And I am so grateful for this connection where we were able to hop on a networking call for 30 minutes and we both agreed to keep going. We ended up talking for about 45 or 50 minutes. And we have some really nice steps that we're going to do after this. So these are the things where we build relationships one person at a time, and we let these things just evolve and happen. So again, your challenge is identify 3 people who you would love to have an informational interview with and make that happen within the next month and do it. And then shoot me a message, whether you email me at john@johnnarroll.com or you message me on LinkedIn or on Facebook or Instagram at John Narroll Coaching. Tell me how it went for you. What did you learn? I'm curious to know, curious to find out from you. So have some fun with these informational interviews. It's a great opportunity to connect at a different level, get them to open up and talk about themselves and what they love about their work and what are some of their challenges. But make sure you're asking questions to get you the information you need to help you make the most informed decision as you build your mid-career GPS. All right, my friends, I wish you a great rest of the day. Please remember to go to Amazon to check out my book, Your Mid-Career GPS, 4 Steps to Figuring Out What's Next. If you are not a member of my private Facebook group, go to Facebook and search for Your Mid-Career GPS. Answer the membership questions. Come join my group. So many great things that are happening there. And mark your calendars. August 17th is my official book launch day. And make sure to listen to next Tuesday's podcast because I've got an amazing guest that I am going to share a conversation with around writing my book and what it has all meant. And I can't wait for you to listen to that. So in the meantime, remember, we build our mid-career GPSs one step or 1 mile at a time, and how we show up matters. Make it a great rest of the day. If you enjoyed today's show and don't want to miss an episode, follow on Apple Podcasts or wherever you usually listen. And I'd appreciate it if you would leave a rating and review. Visit johnnarroll.com to download your free copy of the 55-minute career transition jumpstart to help you start building your mid-career GPS. And don't forget to connect with me on LinkedIn and follow me on social at John Narroll Coaching. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.